in for a treat today. I have Keresa Richardson with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Teresa. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. So you're running for Texas House District 61.
Correct.
Now, this is a very important race, and especially for our county.
Yes.
But it goes beyond our county. It is going to affect our city, our state, and so much more.
It does, and people just don't realize the importance of this election. The Texas House is a mess. It is really a mess. And the Ken Paxton impeachment trial brought a lot of corruption to light. And so people are more awake and aware than they ever have been.
Wow.
And that gives us an opportunity. You know, when there's a challenge, that brings opportunity. So it's an opportunity to shed some light on what's going on in Austin and to make changes. And so that's what we're trying to do, make some positive changes.
Hey, we need that. We need that right now. So I want you to educate our viewers. One of the things that the people know about the Teresa Lusk Show is that we're here to educate and inspire and motivate people to get involved and to change. You said it's a mess. Can you please break it down for us? Because let me just say this to our viewers. This is not just a Texas issue. This is across the nation, but we get to shed light on it here in our area. However, for those of you who are not in Texas, but you're in another state, guess what? This could be part of what's going on in your area. So can you break that down? What's going on?
Yes, most people are not aware, Teresa, that in Texas, we say we have a Republican governor, a Republican Senate, a Republican House. But our House is actually being controlled by the Democrats. And we have 150 representatives. The Republicans have the majority. But the Democrats always vote in a block.
Okay.
And whoever wants to be the Speaker of the House will go out and donate money to a certain number of Republicans, maybe 10, maybe 12. And those Republicans will vote along with the Democratic bloc to put that person in as Speaker of the House.
Wow.
A very powerful position.
Well, yes.
And then that Speaker will appoint Democratic committee chairs to the most important committees. There may be 10, there may be 12, but the Democrats will have control in those committees about which legislation is brought forth. So we elect our representatives, send them down there, and they bring forth great legislation. But it doesn't come out of committee. It gets killed by the chairman in committee. We had 187 bills last time get killed in committee in that session.
Wow.
And so really the Democrats are controlling the House. And on top of that, the current Speaker of the House, is not bringing forth the legislation that the governor wants. So the governor is at war with the House of Representatives because they won't vote for the bills he's trying to get passed. So he calls special session after special session after special session. And every time it costs the taxpayers millions of dollars because we're paying for all of those representatives to go down there and do a job. And then sometimes they refuse to show up and no quorum is present. Like in the fourth session, they didn't even have enough people to take a vote because some of those representatives chose to rebel and not show up for work. So it's very dysfunctional.
Yes.
And we need to fix it. We need to send new conservative leaders down there to make a difference who can't be bought and paid for.
That's right. So let me ask you a question, because I think when there is such a battle between the left and the right, the Democrats, the Republicans, there's a lot that is said that can just sound like this is information, but you seem to have very detailed information. How does one know that this really is happening and it's not just another Republican, another conservative saying this? How do we know this?
Well, I mean, it's very obvious. We know we had 4 special sessions. We know what the bills were that the governor wanted passed. We know that they didn't get passed or they got stripped of the important parts of the legislation, like the education bill. He wanted educational savings accounts to be passed, and the Republicans, the House of Representatives, stripped that from the bill. So they passed a bill, but they watered it down. They took out the important parts. So if you pay attention to what's going on, you can find out. But it's difficult. Everybody's busy. Everybody's, taking care of their families, their jobs. two parents working in the home. People don't have time to do their research.
Right.
And so that's what's unfortunate. We can't just trust that people are doing what's in our best interest. Unfortunately, we have a lobbyist as a representative, not a representative of the people. So I want to be a representative. I want to talk to the people, the constituents, find out what their issues are, and go down there and bring those issues forth, and not just let special interest groups determine how I vote.
So funny that you bring that up, because today I was actually doing a little research and a little reading on lobbyists, and I could tell you what, my blood was boiling. I was like, how is this legal? How is this legal?
The unions and the lobbyists control what's going on, not just in Texas, but many other states and in Washington. We have so many special interest groups, the teachers' unions, the real estate unions, you name it. Everybody's got a union.
Yeah.
And that union contributes money to all of these representatives.
Sure.
And then guess how they vote?
Right.
So,
Well, it makes me go, how in the world is anything legitimate? How is anything legitimate? Which that's part of the reason why you're running, because you're looking to bring in some authentic leadership.
I don't need this job. I have multiple companies. I've been in business for 40 years. I don't need something else to do. I'm doing it because I'm being called to do it. I'm being called to give back because I love Texas. Our family's been in Texas 188 years, a year prior to the Alamo. So, we go back a long, long way. We love Texas. And I want a Texas the way I grew up. When I went to school, we put our hand over the heart. We said the Pledge of Allegiance. We prayed every day before school. We sang Texas, Our Texas. It was a patriotic time.
Right.
And we're losing that. We're losing our school system. We're losing our city councils. Everything is becoming more and more liberal. Right. Parents have to be so cautious about what's in the school library.
Right.
I mean, all this is coming to light, and people are becoming more aware, and that's a good thing.
Right.
Because we have been, I won't say lazy, but we have been lackadaisical,
apathetic
in because we just thought, okay, we live in Texas, we don't have any problems.
Right. We thought we were so conservative.
The land of the free,
safe.
right?
Yeah, we're good. No, we're
wow.
not.
And it's unfortunate, but it's not that way. We have to fight to get that back.
Right. Which brings me to one of the points that you're running on, which is parental rights.
Exactly.
Tell me a little bit about that. Is this why you're running also? I mean, you brought up the schools, which it is real. It's true that our parents are losing control.
Right.
Their rights are being stripped without them even realizing it.
Correct.
So what is it that you plan on doing regarding parental rights?
Okay. So I had 2 children that went through public schools, and then I homeschooled my daughter, my 3rd child. My first 2 fell through the cracks in public school, and I wasn't going to let that happen to my 3rd child. So I homeschooled her, and I started homeschooling 35 years ago when homeschooling was not cool. Wow. Nobody knew what it was. I knew one other person that was homeschooling, and that was it. And so I've always been a radical, not a radical, but I've bucked the system. Yeah. I'm going to do for my family what I think is right, no matter what anybody else says. Right. So parents should have the right to put their child in a charter school, a public school, a private school, homeschool. They know what's best for their family and their kids.
That's right.
And so if you feel God calling you to homeschool, do it.
That's right.
You need the option.
That's
you
right.
need those rights.
Yeah.
And so that's just one piece of it. But what about gender transitioning issues or pornography in the libraries? All of these things the parents have to be so aware of now.
Yes.
We didn't have to worry about that when we were growing up, right?
Right.
We didn't have these stressors. And so parents have to be involved, but they should be making the choices. The children are theirs. They are not wards of the state.
That's right.
And so that's my beef about, I have nothing against public schools, but I think in all types of society, competition is good.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's my businesses or I don't care what it is.
Right.
I get better and sharper if I have competition.
Sure. But I think it's a mentality, because I was thinking about this because I'm all for that. I'm all for, being able to select your own school for your children.
Right.
And some of the arguments that I have heard is that if you stop funding public schools, then some of the kids are going to get left behind. So I care about all kids. So it's not like I just want some kids. But
Correct.
at the same time, I think we're under this assumption that it's the government's money. And that's where I come back and I go, that's not the government's money.
No.
It's your money. So you have the right to say, I would like to do this with the money. And I was having this conversation the other day because there was an opposing opinion about it. And it was a great conversation. But I said, here's the thing. This money, it belongs to us.
Right.
And secondly, if you really want your school system to run, then cut in other places where there's useless spending going on.
There's a lot of useless spending.
How about we just go there?
So the last time that I checked, we were spending $16,500 per student. So that's a lot of money. The problem is we're too heavy at administration. I don't know how many principals we need in an elementary school, or how many counselors, or how many superintendents, whatever. We have the burden of too much overhead in our schools. So in many school districts, due to COVID, they lost a lot of students. They stayed home after that. But we have the equivalent of empty elementary schools in almost every city in Texas. But we're still building schools. We're still spending money on facilities because the school districts don't want you to know that they're losing students. So I don't want to gut the public schools either, but I want them to become more efficient.
Sure.
And right now, there's too much paperwork, too much government overreach. Abolish the federal overreach into school districts. We shouldn't have that.
Sure.
So we need to get rid of some of these agencies that make them do so much paperwork.
Yes.
And we need to be more efficient and streamline our operations. And we need to get back to the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Sure.
And we need to get rid of some of these administrative layers that are costing so much money.
Well, and even in areas outside of education, I mean, I promise you there's spending going on that doesn't need to be. That you can allocate some money to the public schools, regroup with what's happening with current budgets, and then allocate some money somewhere else that it's just being misused.
There is just a bloating of our bureaucracy in all government agencies, and we are very inefficient. Now, I've run businesses for 40 years. I know how to balance a budget. I know how to make payroll. I know when the economy gets tight, I have to cut, right? Cut expenses.
Right.
But our government doesn't seem to do that. They just keep printing money and thinking it's coming from nowhere. And I'm like, hello, we can't sustain this debt. So that's the problem. We need business people to go down there, to go to Austin and stop some of this frivolous spending.
Sure.
And to Washington, too.
There you go. Well, I think that's the difference that I think a lot of people, I was a fan of President Trump, and I thought he had some great business sense, and why would that not work for a nation? I mean, if you built it from the bottom up and were very successful, I think it's definitely a plus. So, so you're running, you're obviously passionate about getting things aligned and taken care of. Parental rights is a big deal.
Right.
You also mentioned you want to make Texas strong again.
Right.
We were very, very conservative, but now there is a little bit or a lot of a fight for Texas.
Correct.
And I do believe that it is very intentional.
Oh,
100%.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So one of my mantras is Texans Fight. And we have TexansFight.com as one of our websites. Texans fight for the border. Texans fight for children. Texans fight for other Texans. Texans are not going to roll over and play dead. We are going to fight for our children, our grandchildren. We've got to save our state. And so that's why I'm running. That's why I'm passionate. Because it's time to draw a line in the sand, like in the Alamo, and say, no, you're not coming any further. We've lost Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin to the liberals.
Okay.
And now there are two major fights going on. Williamson County, north of Houston, Collin County, north of Dallas. Those are two highly concentrated conservative areas, and they are under attack by the left. And we can't afford to lose those areas. We have to draw a line in the sand. We have to fight. And that's why I'm running.
Well, there you go. I'm glad that you're taking care of things. You're big on pro-business as well. You've said you've built some businesses. Can I ask what kind of businesses you've built? And,
sure.
What are you doing? Because I think that when somebody has a business, there's a lot to their life. I think there's so much wisdom, principles that you can use to run a campaign, to run for office, which I will get to as well.
Sure.
But what kind of businesses have you built?
Right. So I've been in a man's world my whole life. but I have plumbing, HVAC, electrical, refrigeration, and pest control companies.
Wow.
And we have offices in San Antonio and Austin and Carrollton and Dallas and Plano and McKinney and all around the state. So I'm used to being in the trades, and those are typically men. I'd love to see more women get into the trades. It's girls, you'd make a lot of money. Let me tell you, you need to go do that. But that's the kind of business that I've been in, and for 40 years. So I don't know anything other than living in a trades world, and so I deal with men all the time, and I deal with women all the time, and I know when we first started in business there weren't too many women in plumbing, and so there were a lot of articles written about me being in plumbing, and now there's a lot of women in plumbing, but in the beginning it was considered a man's world, and not so much anymore. So that's what I do.
Wow. And one of the things I read was you're passionate about women in business. I love to see a woman advance.
Absolutely.
Not because I don't care about the men. I absolutely care about the men. But if we're honest, the women are a little behind. We're catching up pretty quickly, which I'm super proud of. Proud of. But I think it's great to empower a woman to go out there and do what stirred up the passion for that. Was it because you built the businesses and you had to deal with the man's world, or?
I never wanted any advantage for being a woman.
Sure.
I want to compete on a level playing field. But there are many women who find themselves single moms. Maybe they've been through divorce. Maybe they've had hard times. They need to be able to take care of themselves.
That's right.
So it doesn't matter to me what stage of life you're in. You need to be knowledgeable about finance. You need to be knowledgeable about marketing. You need to be knowledgeable about so many areas. And so I've mentored a lot of women to help them be successful. And business is hard. Yeah. Running a campaign's harder.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I was about to ask, what is it? What are the business principles that you're now applying to your run and to your campaign? Because surely it's challenging on so many levels.
It's not that different. You still have to have a budget with a campaign. You still have to raise money or funds. You have to have cash flow, so lots of business principles. The problem is it's a very compressed time window. It may take you, it's always time and money, a factor of time and money. So you can slow down growing your business and not spend as much money on marketing, right? But if you've got 6 months to run a campaign, then you better hit the ground running and do your social media and your marketing and your door knocking and your calling on the phone and your fundraising and all of these things that you have to do. It's just a short window of time. So it's the same principle. It's just that you don't have a lot of time to do it.
Wow.
So I'm still doing the same things. I have stepped away from my businesses. I have a great leadership team that's running the business because I am campaigning full time.
Wow.
And that means coming and doing podcasts and having these great opportunities with you, but then getting out, knocking doors, talking to constituents, going to hosting meet and greets, going to coffees, there's 47 clubs in Collin County that have monthly meetings, and you get an opportunity to go and meet people there. So there's just so much to do, and it's hard to find time to eat and sleep.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, it says a lot, though, when clearly you know how to delegate and you've built a business successfully enough to be able to say,
Right.
I've assigned my leaders to take care of this. Now I can go and focus on this, which I believe I'm called to do.
Correct.
So you have an opponent and there is an incumbent. How do you believe you're different and better, and what's different with Keresa?
Well, I'm the only female in the race.
I've got to applaud that.
So nothing against the guys.
That's right.
But I think there is a connection.
Yeah.
I can relate better to the women and what they're going through. Having been a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a girlfriend, I've worn a lot of hats over the years,
Sure.
right? And so I think I can relate better to the constituents, whether they're in business or whether they're in ministry. Blue collar,
single moms,
you name it. I can relate to those people, and we can find some common ground.
Sure.
Right. Other than that, 40 years in business, so I've got the budgeting thing and the acumen to have 3 college degrees. Not that a college degree, gets you any further down the road, but but I believe I'm well versed in the issues. I've been involved in politics my whole life. I don't know why God wired me this way. I've asked him many times, Lord, are you sure you want me to do this? But I've always been behind the scenes, wanting to get godly men and women in all levels of government, people that we can trust.
Yeah.
It's all about you do business with people that you know and you trust. And people vote for people they know and they trust.
Sure.
So can you be trustworthy? Can you keep your word? You know, I have lifelong friendships. My best friend I met when I was probably 5 years old. And I hate to tell you, but that's over 50 years now, and I won't say how much over 50 years, but when I have a friend, I am a friend for life.
Amen.
And that loyalty is important. And if I tell you I'm going to go to Austin and do something, I darn sure better do it. Right?
Right. Well, I was going to bring me to my next question is, and really kind of a statement, it seems that you have this internal position of, I'm willing to fight.
Yes.
You seem to be one who's not going to back down.
Correct.
And you're going to fight, and we absolutely need fighters right now.
We do.
People who fight in the right way, because you talked about godly men and women.
Yeah.
That's been my prayer for several years, that the Lord would just begin to put in godly men and women in every structure, every office,
Right.
even in schools and in the medical field,
Lift 'em
and
up.
in the mental health, because that one's being taken over. I mean, I have a master's in counseling, and I guarantee you that's being taken over. And so I think tenacity,
Right.
and you're not going to push back or be pushed back so easily.
Right. Correct.
And your faith plays a big part in that. Everybody who watches this show knows Keresa Lusk is a minister first, and faith is a big deal.
Sure.
So a lot of the people that come here, that's their foundation.
Right.
That's their base.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about how's your faith pushing you forward, and how is it going to serve you for the office?
Absolutely. I mean, I became a Christian at 6 years old. So I grew up, every time the church doors were open, we were there, right? So that's all I know. Everything, every decision I make is through that Christian worldview. So I pray about everything. And if I don't get a green light, that means wait, right? It doesn't mean no, it just means wait.
Right.
So everything I do is because of the way I was raised, and which was a blessing, a huge blessing. But that's not going to change. That's who I am at this age. It's not. Believe me, at this age, I ain't changing. This is, what you see is what you get, and if you don't like it, don't vote for me. It's okay.
Yeah.
You have your choices, and we should all have choices, right?
Absolutely.
That's what it's about. And whoever the voters choose, so be it.
Yeah.
God has put me here for a reason, and I'm going to do what he tells me to do, and if I don't win, I don't win. But I'm here for a reason, and I have to run the best race I can run.
right.
Because if he calls me to do something, I have to do what he tells me to do.
That's right. I love that attitude. I absolutely appreciate that.
Yeah.
How will you serve those who are not Christians, though? Because the truth is that if we're
yeah.
elected officials and we're
Absolutely.
servants, are we only going to serve the Christians? Or
No.
how? Because there's a
No.
misunderstanding, I think, out there
Oh, sure.
that if you're a person of faith,
Right.
which I think is interesting, because when you look at jobs or something of that nature, you look out there, what's out there, it says, we do not discriminate against anybody for their race and their sex and whatever.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to religion, I'm like, yeah, but that usually doesn't include Christians.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It includes everybody else, but not Christians. However, even though I'm a believer, I think it's still important that we serve those who are not Christians. So how do you plan on merging those two worlds?
Well, it's not even, yes, the Christian piece is important, Christian versus non-Christian, but it's also the Democrats. I intend to work with the Democrats.
Good.
If we both go down there and we both say we are wanting to protect children from, gender mutilation issues, then we're on the same side of that issue. So why shouldn't we work together on that issue? We are not enemies, right? We may not have the same views on every issue, but we can work together on that issue. And it's the same kind of thing, Christian versus non-Christian. I mean, there is a large Hindu population in part of my District 61. Great. What do you think their issues are? Family issues,
I was going to say,
children,
they care about those
education.
things. Yes,
They want their families to have a safe place, right? So we find common ground where we see eye to eye.
And they don't want their kids sexualized, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
They don't. We need to make that very clear.
Absolutely.
I think the public needs to know that. Yeah. They don't want those kind of books in the libraries and all that.
No, no, absolutely. So we find common ground with whomever we're dealing with. And we don't need to be divisive. We find common ground and we work together. So it's not a Christian versus non-Christian issue. It's just, we can agree to disagree and not get mad at each other.
That's right.
Not be disrespectful.
Yeah.
We just agree to disagree on certain things.
Yeah.
Right?
I say that a lot.
Oh,
people
okay.
They don't always agree to that, but but I do say that.
Oh, well. Lot,
and so it is what it is. What has been some of the most pleasurable parts of this campaign?
Oh, wow. A dear friend gave me advice, and she said, you need to enjoy the ride. You need to enjoy it. You need to have fun. And it's hard to do when you're working so hard, but meeting people that I didn't know before has been really, really great. Getting to know people that I never met. And that's been the most fun so far.
That's
I
awesome.
think,
All right.
yeah.
How do you deal with your challenges? Because clearly there's some challenges. Everybody runs into when something's important. How do you deal with them?
Wow. In politics, if they can't find anything negative about you, they're going to make something up.
Oh, wow. Oh, my.
So I've already had the incumbent doing what's called a push poll and calling around Republicans and telling them some things. And the way they phrase it, you can't sue them for libel, but if you knew this, would you still support Keresa? If you knew that. So it's like they're just insinuating to people that you do these things when you really don't. So consider the source. Just consider the source.
There
And
you go.
people that really know me know that's not it. But people who don't know you are going to question.
Well, but accusation works. That's the truth.
They're planting
it's
seeds.
One of the most dangerous things ever because it does work.
They're planting
but
seeds.
I find it very interesting though that when you're taught to run a campaign, guess what they teach you to do? Find the dirt.
Oh,
They teach you to find the dirt. That is part of the model. Find the dirt.
I actually had someone try to send me dirt on one of my candidates or one of my opposition, and I said, "Don't send it to me. I don't want it in my email. I don't even want to know."
Good.
Because that's not, I'm trying to run a positive campaign, and I don't want that in my possession.
Good.
Because now there are certain consultants in the political realm that are less ethical than others, and they will dig up the dirt and they will, that's what they will use. So it depends on who you surround yourself with, right? You want to surround yourself with good people. And so you get good consultants, good campaign manager, good volunteers, and you just surround yourself with good people.
There you go.
And you stay on the positive side of everything. And then let the chips fall where they may.
Hey, that's what they do. And like we say in the church, hey, it's under the blood. It's under the blood. It's under the blood. You can find dirt on me, but it's going to be under the blood no matter what.
Thank goodness,
Amen
right?
to
We're
that.
all under
So,
the blood. That's
yes.
good. That's good.
So what would you like to say as we wrap up? What would you like to say to those who are the viewers and even the people in your district?
Wow.
Because this is important.
Yeah. Well, I want to say we do not have another election cycle to waste. Get out and vote. Do it now. Early voting starts February 20th. The primary is March 5th. If there's a runoff, it will be May 11th. So it's important that you vote. It's important that you take a friend with you because this election is more important than people realize. And a lot of people will wait to the presidential election in November. You can't wait for that.
No.
You have to vote in the primary. It's very, very important right now. So I would just say realize the importance of it. Do your homework. Investigate me, investigate the others, and just vote your conscience. I mean, go to my website, KeresaForTexas.com, TexansFight.com, AskKeresa.com. We've got Twitter and Facebook and yada, 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 social media. So, and I'm not as maybe social media savvy as some people, but all you have to do is Google and it all pops up. So
There you go. There you go. Well, I just as we close, I want to say this. I have a friend that I take walks with, and she had no desire for politics or anything like that. But then I started talking to her. She's an educator,
right.
And I have several friends actually who who've been even watching the show.
Okay.
And now they say, oh my gosh, I'm learning so much. I'm getting stirred up. I even got my friend to go vote when the board were voting for the McKinney, my city board, school board.
Good.
Right? Because now, and I got several people to go vote just by being, educational and talking about things. And it's not like some boring sermon. It's like, hey, you realize that this is important, because if you care about your country and your nation and your state and your county and your city, this is very important.
Exactly.
So, well, blessings on everything that you
Thank
do,
you.
and I can't wait to see how everything turns out.
I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
It's good to be here. It's nice to meet you and to know about your
too.
ministry. And again, that's the best part of a campaign, right? Getting to meet great people and know people all over the district. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here.
Well, that's wonderful.
Thank
Well, there
you.
you have it, my friends. Keresa Richardson. She's running for Texas House District 61. Go check her out. Her website is listed right there at the bottom. You'll be able to get a hold of her if you want to, if you have questions. But remember to set your calendar to go vote. Do your research on your district, who's running. You have to know who's running.
Yep.
What do they represent? And listen, I've even heard people say that they're not going to vote in the 2024 presidential election. I could about bop them in the nose. I said, I cannot believe you're doing that. That is a disservice. And I get it. There's people who don't have a positive outlook on politicians, because you made the point of why.
Yeah.
However, we still have to do the right thing and the best thing, no matter what other people are doing. So be sure that you become active. Make sure that you become an intelligent American. Stop letting the media tell you what to do. Stop letting them tell you what to think.
Yes.
Look at two different sides. I keep saying this. You need to look at conservative media and liberal media. And guess what? Sometimes they're both wrong. Can I just be honest? They are both wrong, and they're both not telling the truth. Do your homework. So I can't wait to see you again. Thank you for joining the Teresa Lusk Show. God bless.
Thank you.